All right, let's dive right into this explainer by diagnosing a massive systemic flaw in how we communicate. Look, right now, our public and private conversations are basically in an absolute state of crisis. They are completely stuck. I mean, whether you're talking to some stranger on the internet or a colleague across a conference table, disagreements almost always devolve into people who are entirely convinced of their own views, just shouting at each other from a distance. You go in trying to make a really simple point, and within like 3 minutes, the entire thing spins completely out of control. Well, today, we're going to fix that. So, to figure out how to actually win and have a productive dialogue, we need to hack the very structure of conversation. Here's our agenda for today. 1. The communication crisis. 2. The agitation of instinct. 3. The RISA solution. And 4. The side switch secret. Let's kick things off with part 1, the communication crisis. Here's the core issue, right? The actual skill of having a good argument has severely atrophied in our society. We just don't treat debate as a skill to be honed anymore. Instead, we jump headfirst into disagreements out of pure instinct and defensiveness. So I really have to ask you, when was the last time you actually changed someone's mind? Seriously, think about your last Thanksgiving family argument. Did a simple debate about the economy somehow get hijacked by your uncle yelling about a personal choice you made 10 years ago? Yeah, we've all been there, and it is incredibly frustrating. Because the truth is, arguments are very easy to start, but man, they are incredibly hard to end. And why is that? Well, because there are an infinite number of differences between any two human beings. Every single past grievance, every tiny difference in worldview or perceived slight is going to flood right to the surface during a conflict unless you actively set boundaries. And when we fail to set those boundaries, we fall into what's called the unruly mass. This is a conflict where you just stop arguing about the actual topic at hand, and instead, you start fighting about literally everything all at once. You make absolutely zero progress on any given issue, and you lose total control of the narrative. Moving right along to part 2, the agitation of instinct. Now, this whole unruly mass situation, it completely wrecks our faith in conversation entirely. It's exactly why so many of us just want to check out and avoid disagreeing altogether. When you jump blindly into an argument without negotiating the rules of engagement beforehand, you're leaving the door wide open. Unnegotiated arguments are essentially an open invitation for bad faith actors, manipulators, and your own pure emotional reflexes to just take the wheel. And when you have two sides that simply want to hurt each other's feelings rather than actually find the truth, it becomes a toxic disaster. So, the crucial difference here really comes down to instinct versus wisdom. Instinct makes you frantically try to respond to everything. It's like trying to juggle 50 flaming torches all at once. Actually, scratch that, it's worse. You're guaranteed to get burned and drop them. Wisdom, on the other hand, is knowing exactly which parts of an argument you need to respond to, and honestly, more importantly, which parts you should completely ignore. Okay, part 3, the RISA solution. So how do we actually acquire that wisdom? Well, to stop getting dragged into the mud and finally take back control of our conversations, we need a reliable filter. And we need one designed by the absolute experts in communication. For this, we turn to a guy named Bo Seo. He is a former coach of the Harvard debate team and, get this, a 2-time world debate champion. When it comes to managing conflict and winning arguments structurally, he is the undisputed authority. He developed the ultimate argument filter to help you pick your fights wisely and completely filter out the noise. He calls it the RISA Framework. Before you launch into any disagreement or challenge a claim, you must pause, just take a breath, and pass the conversation through this 4-step filter. RISA. Real, important, specific, and aligned. Let's break down exactly how you use these steps in real time. All right, here are the first 3 crucial checks you need to make in your head. First up, real. You got to ask yourself, is this a real disagreement or just a misunderstanding? Because half the time, people are violently agreeing with each other, just using different words. Verify you actually disagree first. Second, important. Does this matter enough to justify fighting? If not, just save your energy and drop it. Third, specific. Is the scope narrow enough to make actual progress? You literally cannot debate the entire state of the world in one sitting. You have to narrow the scope to a specific policy or action to get anywhere. But here is a brutal reality check regarding that 4th step. Alignment. You absolutely cannot win a chess match if the other person is playing dodgeball. It's that simple. If your goal going into the conversation is to find the truth, but their goal is just to make you angry or score cheap points, there is zero alignment. You have already lost control. So, before the unruly mass can even begin, you need what's called a pre-fight contract. You look at them and just ask,
Are you really in this, hoping to persuade me to change my mind? It's brilliant because it forces the other person to state their intentions out loud. It establishes right out of the gate that you are both playing the exact same game for the exact same reasons.
And that brings us to the ultimate hack. Enforce the contract. Once you've asked that question and they've agreed to the terms, you hold the power. If they suddenly try to expand the debate, break the rules, or bring up old, irrelevant baggage, you use this initial agreement to pull the conversation right back to those strict parameters. You just remind them of what you agreed to discuss, instantly cutting off the chaos before it spreads like wildfire. Let's wrap this up with part 4, the side switch secret. Once you have secured the boundaries of the debate using RISA, you need to execute using active listening as a strategic weapon. To truly win, you must apply what philosophers and debaters call the principle of charity. This means responding to the absolutely strongest version of your opponent's argument. You must not twist their meaning or take their words out of context to make them look weak. Why? Because if you can apply this principle and still defeat their best possible point exactly as they meant it, they've absolutely nowhere left to hide. So, how do we actually practice this? Well, here is your psychological cheat code. Right before you argue a point, I want you to force yourself to sit down and write out the 4 best arguments for the opposing side. And I don't mean the weak arguments. I mean the 4 absolute strongest points your opponent could possibly make against you. You have to imagine a world where you actually lost the debate and figure out exactly why you lost. This side switch exercise, it's a total game changer. It forces intellectual humility, it dramatically sharpens your understanding of the topic, and it completely bulletproofs your own logic before you even open your mouth. By the time they make their points, you've already anticipated and dismantled them in your own mind. So I'm going to leave you with this final provocative question. Are you going to let emotional reflexes and past grievances hijack your next conversation, or will you use the RISA protocol to completely command the room? By treating a debate as a structured pursuit of truth with clear boundaries, you massively enlarge your ability to discuss contentious issues without losing your cool. So pick your battles wisely, practice that pre-fight contract, and make sure to join us for our next explainer to master even more of these critical thinking hacks.